I played Shadows of Rose, and I didn't really like it all that much. But before you begin flaming me in the comment section below, I just wanted to explain the peeves I was having with it. Since it's a fairly long DLC, I'll be splitting up this series into maybe 2 or 3 different videos so I could properly explain each section of Shadows of Rose in detail. Spoilers ahead, and without further ado, let's just get right into it. I will admit, I was super hyped when I first saw the trailer of it. I was excited to learn about Ethan's daughter and what Rose's powers would be like all grown up. When I saw the Duke, I practically crapped my pants. I was very intrigued to see what he would be like as a villain, and to see what he had been hiding from Ethan up to this point. I was also enthusiastic about the over-the-shoulder third-person mode, as I always enjoyed that style in Resident Evil 4, 5, and yes, even 6. However, there are some problems I notice. Some may be opinionated, but some are actual critiques that should be taken with a grain of salt. Odd pacing. So, Shadows of Rose throws us right into the plot, revealing a conversation between Rose and a guy that we, as the player, don't even know.
Hey, Kay. Sorry I'm late.
It's okay, I'm just enjoying the day.
You said you had something important to tell me? I hope it's not about Chris wanting me to join his operation, because I already told him that's not happening. I see what he puts you and the rest of his Hound Wolf squad through.
It could be odd to introduce a random character with little to no context, especially in a game that tied up loose ends to several games before it. To give an example, remember how we all felt when we were introduced to Ethan for the first time. We were excited for the new perspective and the rekindling of survival horror, but we had no clue who Ethan was. Many of us were hoping to see Chris, Leon, Ada, Sherry, Claire, heck, even Jake Mueller for all that matter. Although it was a good idea to create something fresh, this new character in particular doesn't really have a purpose besides pushing the story forward, especially as a side character. We start with an intro that lasts for several minutes, and even through my first playthrough, it wasn't really that interesting. I wanted to actually skip the cutscenes and get straight into the action, but I didn't want to miss anything crucial or important. Even after the game allows us to move our own, we aren't allowed to run until another few minutes into the game, which is very frustrating and doesn't even make sense story-wise. Rose is in a weird world and has already seen many weird things up to this point, yet refuses to pick up the pace and instead moves like she's on a leisurely walk. This changes up several times throughout the game though. Once she is finally able to run, it's just a really slow jog, and you almost feel too slow, like there should be a power-up to go faster, yet there isn't.
What? A dead end!
This becomes especially apparent in sections where you have to run or gun your way through enemies, and although they are slow, they'll still somehow manage to stumble right into you. On the other hand, the weird words that help us get away will soon be revealed to be Ethan, guiding us through the castle. On occasion, Rose will completely stop to talk out loud to the guiding words and hints that Ethan leaves behind. A prime example is as follows.
A way out! Shit! What now? Seriously?
It is awkward and out of place, as she was quite literally running for her life seconds ago, only to be stopped by a scripted cutscene where Ethan provides the suckiest gun obtainable in Resident Evil Village. A lot of starting and stopping. The game gives you the means to defend yourself, but unless you're doing a boss battle, a lot of monsters can be avoided entirely.
I wonder where I might find the next rabbit.
Except, on the offhand, they can't be avoided at all, like in this hallway. Sometimes the areas you're smushed in make it hard, if not dang near impossible, to strafe around an enemy, so you have no choice but to take them out with your gun. In this gameplay, I'm playing on hardcore. However, even on neutral run, the enemies took several shots to the head just to stumble or die. You'll be pushed in the direction of running instead of fighting. This game quite literally tells you to get out while you can, to run and not fight, and to go deeper. Perspective. Although the third person actually looks really good in Resident Evil Village, I had some slight beef with the way it was used. For one, the player is literally forced to play in third person as Rose. You can't switch between first and third like you'd be able to do as Ethan. There were some parts of the DLC that would be utterly terrifying in first person, but that ideal is lost as Capcom wanted to show off this OG angle on the new perspective of the game. Don't get me wrong, third person is great, but I wish we had at least the option to play in first person just to immerse ourselves like in RE7 and RE8 before the update. Some sections of the game can actually be a little clunky, such as unlocking a door or crawling through a hole in the wall. Some specific animations just work better in first person, and weren't exactly altered to work well for third person specifically. Although, this is just more of a personal nitpick on my part. Enemies. The enemies in this section are fine, but I still do have some critiques about them. One of the biggest and main ones I could think of is that they're complete bullet sponges. Even on easier modes, it could take half a mag to the body and 3 to 6 shots to the head alone. And that's with an upgraded handgun. There are so many segments where several enemies spawn, and it literally becomes smarter to stun them with Rose's power than it would be attempting to kill them all, especially on hardcore. Sometimes the enemies can be really buggy as well. Usually if you hit your shots correctly, there's a set amount an enemy will take before staggering, giving you time to finish them off or retreat to a safer location. Yet at times they will completely ignore the staggering shot and will continue to stumble directly towards you, sometimes getting a cheap shot off. The groaning they let off is awesome. However, as you play, the sounds they consistently make is like all around you, even if you're in a different room. Odds are the developers did this to make you seem claustrophobic, but with how wide some of the rooms could be, it seems unlikely in my opinion. Before moving off of this topic, one last thing that threw me off were the amount of scripted battles slash enemies. I mean, yes, I know every game has those scripted battles, but in this DLC it was so apparent. You'd enter a room and enemies would only spawn after you got an item or unlocked a certain door or stood in a certain area. What made it worse is that these enemies were stuck in these rooms. You could stand at the door barrier and they wouldn't even try attacking you until you passed that barrier. There were several areas where enemies would spawn on both sides, and unless you retreated to a previous room right away, you'd get stuck between them, taking some random damage. The worst experience I've had so far is shown here. In a segment where I'm literally expected to run, not fight back, an enemy freezes right in front of the only way for me to escape, causing me to be smashed against the concrete. In short, the enemy design is cool, but the way they act was just too predictable and unpredictable in my opinion, if that makes sense. Rose's personality. Now, this is a tough one to talk about. Rose takes a lot of qualities that Ethan had. She's hard-headed, stubborn, and won't quit until she gets what she wants. However, unlike Ethan, who was fighting for good reasons such as saving Mia and saving Rose, she's just doing it for personal gain. Ethan was thrown into situations where he had to fight, but Rose went searching for it and refused to leave when things became dangerous and real. I just wish she had a better motive other than just not wanting to be weird. I wish the idea could have been that she believed she could bring back her dad if she did go through with it, and that is why she couldn't leave so easily despite Ethan trying to convince her otherwise.
Not until I find that crystal. I'm tired of being a freak. I want to have friends. I want to live a normal life. Without this curse. If that purifying crystal can make that happen, make me normal, then I'm not going back until I find it.
I'm not fully sure. It seems odd of her to be so stubborn in a situation so dangerous for no good reason. The Duke. I think a good topic to end this video on would be the Duke himself. In the main campaign, he guides Ethan in the correct direction and gives him so many hints as to what to do next. He seems to be kind of in the middle of things between Miranda and the other lords. He was mysterious, and even when you trusted him and he helped you, there was always some odd feeling in your gut that something was off. This DLC completely throws that idea away. When I watched the trailer originally, the way it was directed made it seem like Rose actually traveled back to where it began, and even though the Megamycete was destroyed, somehow it managed to rebuild what had been lost. I felt like the Duke had something to do with it. He was menacing, smart, and conniving. Unfortunately, it isn't really explained. In Shadows of Rose, he's kind of just evil to be evil. Even the fake roses that he captures don't change anything. It's almost like this version of the Duke is under mind control, or has gone crazy. The Duke never died in the main game. Who's to say he is dead in the Megamycete, and not just some type of clone like all those roses? They glossed over the Duke when there were so many opportunities to bring his story to life, to enlighten the player. Unfortunately, he was just a throwaway who didn't even get as much as his own boss battle. And yes, this one doesn't count.
It's even uglier now.
Human life is so fragile, so easily stuffed.
Nothing is really explained about him, and he barely has any screen time, unfortunately. But what about you guys? Did you enjoy this DLC? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? Please let me know in the comments below. I think that's a good area to end this off on. I'll see you guys in part 2. Peace out.